Notre Dame fans, welcome back to another edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. We are finally back in the friendly confines of our homes here in Prairie Lanes in good old Granger, Indiana. No more hotels, no more weird rooms, no more long trips. Vince Dario, football analyst at Irish Breakdown. I'm Brian Driscoll, your publisher. And, Vince, we got some really interesting stuff. We've been trying some things out here before the show started, and I think y'all are going to like what we have to do here today. So, here's what the premise of this show is for those who are new. So last night you got our raw, immediate, after the game. This is how we felt when we watched it live. Thoughts, we go back in and we break down the film. And here's what happened. Sometimes things are not as bad as we thought. Sometimes things are worse than we thought.
Sometimes they're worse.
Sometimes it's just we have a better understanding of why things happen. So we are going to talk about those things now. There are some things that I watched that when I watched it, Vince, it was as bad as I thought. There wasn't anything that was necessarily worse than I thought. Just I'm a little more mad now than I was before. For example, there's no excuse for Tobias Merriweather not to have played last night unless he was hurt. None. There were some things that were better than I thought. And some people are not going to like it because it's, string Tommy Reese up by his, ankles and tar and feather him and give him some lashes, and there are some things that he has to do better compared to last night.
No doubt.
There were adjustments that were made, and it came down to it where it was execution. So now the offensive coordinator is responsible for execution, and that is something that needs to get fixed. But some of the adjustments and some of the things we saw in the second half, we're going to talk about. I think that there were some things that maybe they weren't as prepared for going in that they should have been prepared for. We'll talk about those as well. They didn't quite adjust to some of those things as quickly as I think they should have adjusted to. There was execution problems, miscommunications, missed opportunities. A lot of things went wrong on the offense, and defensively, Vince, it was every bit as good as, for me, it was every bit as good as we thought last night.
So what you're saying is you're in favor of execution? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, dear. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. I'm not even going there.
I couldn't help it.
I'm not even going there.
I'm really trying to be in a good mood here because obviously last night, if anybody was in the show with us, all 1,200 of our friends, I was not in a good mood and I got a good night, kind of a good night's sleep, had a wonderful ride home with my good buddy, and I'm trying to be happy and I'm watching the film and I'm, trying to be excited. I was excited to see my kids when I got home, trying to put myself in better spirits, Brian.
Not a fun film session, man.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Well, at least when we're breaking down the offense.
Well, and that's
after watching the film, Ben Morrison is still a dude.
And I will also say, and I know we're going to get to this later, and I'll tease it, but the secondary, who I thought was a bright spot last night, coming out of it, watching it live, I was even more happy with the secondary after watching it on film. So I will say that.
Some all 22 film I was able to watch.
Oh, so jealous. Jealous.
Yep. So, Vince, we're going to go offense first, defense second. Okay, so we're going to get the ugliness out of the way first, like we did last night. Plus, we're both offensive guys, and we have a lot more to talk about. And then we're going to jump into the defense. We're going to have some stuff for you on the offense. So I think you guys are gonna like this. I think the first thing for me, Vince, that it comes down to it is we're going to talk a little scheme stuff, and then we're going to kind of get into some of the execution things. And the first thing for me that I think the big thing from last night is the one theme that we had that was confirmed watching film, and even actually confirmed and then some, was the missed opportunities. There were a lot more opportunities for big plays last night, or even just important plays, chain moving plays that we're going to get into. So we're going to talk about some of the execution things first, but I want to go over a little bit of the scheme and some of the things that Ohio State did that Notre Dame had problems with, that Notre Dame honestly should have done a better job of adjusting to sooner, but they did adjust to them. So the first thing that I want to kind of pull up here, Vince, is I want to kind of get into some of the stuff that we saw early in the game. And this is a 1st and 10 play on Notre Dame's first drive. This is right after Lorenzo Styles had the 54-yard catch and run on the RPO.
This is the very next play. Very next play, right?
Yeah. Very next
they only
play.
had one first and 10. So.
Yep. And Vince, if at any point in time I start to get choppy with my words, just kind of give me just a little bit of heads up. But I think we should be okay. My video might go out a little bit. That's just the issue we have. But hopefully the audio still sounds good. So Notre Dame is in a 12 personnel look here, right? So we've talked about this before. Let's go 12 personnel. Okay, so that means 2 tight ends. So you have Michael Mayer here. That's tight end number 1. You have Kevin Bauman here. All right, so that's the 2 tight ends. You have Audric Estime as the running back, and then you have 2 receivers over here to the field. Okay, so Ohio State did a lot of this last night, and what they did is basically said we're going to play cover 1 or cover 0. Now, in this particular play, this is cover 1. Cover 1 means you got man here, so let's go here. You got man to man here, right? You've got man to man here, and then you've got man here, and then with 1 free safety. That's what cover 1 means. Okay.
Yep. He's got the whole field to take care of. He's playing. That's what they call center field. He's got the center of the field, and he goes where he thinks he needs to go.
Right. So in this alignment, you have this safety. This is the kind of the guy that you have to worry about. What you had here is this right here up top. You see they had man to man. And what you're going to find from this alignment, Vince, is Ohio State was in a very aggressive box. So Notre Dame basically has 7 guys in the box here, right? So it's 2 tight ends and 5 offensive linemen. Ohio State has their 4 defensive linemen, their 2 linebackers, and then they have a safety and a corner, or a safety. It looks like that both of their safeties actually, because they have their 3 safety look. They have 2 safeties here. So they basically have 8. So it was 8 guys in the box to Notre Dame's 7. And this
already
safety over here, right now, Notre Dame's 2 guys are on the hash and outside the hash, and this safety here is cheating towards the hash and eyeing inside. And at the snap, he kind of flat-footed, stayed a little bit in that zone. He didn't take off over there.
And so I will
Notre Dame tried to go ahead, Vince.
I was just going to say, and I will say that the safeties, I would say 85% of the night had their eyes in the backfield and were playing run support before pass support. So that was a trend. That was a trend.
And we'll have some more clips that are even more, make it more obvious.
Yes.
So my whole point is these needed to be times when going into this game, you needed to see more of a willingness to attack here. And that's what we didn't see. So this came after the 15-yard gain, or after the 54-yard gain, plus a 15-yard penalty added on to the end. So Notre Dame gets over at the 16 and the drive stalled. Because the red zone plan last night, to me, wasn't as effective going into the game. Now, later in the game, they had another red zone opportunity that worked out, and they had some good stuff there. But here, they had opportunities on 1st and 2nd down to go right here, and both times they decided to run the ball into an where you had an outnumbered box. And I think that, to me, was a bit of a mistake, Vince. And we saw that several times. I'm gonna show kind of the tight copy here of this particular play, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. So let me just pull this up. So this is the tight copy version of this play. And the other thing that you can see is here's the center right here. So Notre Dame has 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers over here. Ohio State has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys backside. And then Notre Dame has 3 on 3. Okay, and so they basically ran an inside zone. Basically, they're coming back here where they were outnumbered. That was the other part of the problem, is they were running into the outnumbered side, right? And so to me, there needed to be some kind of check here, and it still isn't good, because the other problem is here's why this is a really good game plan. So what Ohio State does here is they outnumber Notre Dame over here. So out here, Notre Dame is outnumbered. Over here, Notre Dame is out leveraged. So you got leverage here, right? And he's leveraged on the nose, and they've got a guy here in this backside guy. This linebacker right here, Still Chambers, can easily get over here if he needs to, or to fill backside. And so this is a really good alignment here by Ohio State, and Notre Dame didn't really have an answer for it. I would have liked to see something where maybe they tried to run over here, but again, it would have been a little tough because you are out leveraged in that instance. But that's why I felt that the check should have been get the ball out, take a shot, move Tyler Buckner, where maybe you get a reach block here and you try to sprint him out, move your back over here and try to run some kind of swing concept, or, maybe get your back over here and protect, and then maybe send him down the seam to isolate this safety and then keep that one-on-one backside. And so to me, I look at it and I say, look, it was something that we saw from Ohio State plenty of times in this game last night, Vince, where they just it's like they weren't prepared for it. And I think that was something that was a little bit concerning for me, was the fact that they didn't seem as prepared for the numbers in the box. And my concern is, and here's another example of what you were talking about, Vince, earlier, is there's 4 down linemen. Notre Dame is in now 11 personnel. Okay, so 11 personnel means one tight end, right? Tight end here, 1 back, 3 receivers, 1, 2, 3 receivers. That's 11 personnel. Okay.
Yep.
So Notre Dame has basically 6 in the box. Okay, from there. Okay, so 6 in the box. Let me get rid of all these. 6 in the box. Notre Dame has 6 in the box, 5 down linemen, and a defensive end. Ohio State has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players technically in the box. But with this press corner here, this safety is within 7 yards of the line of scrimmage. This safety is within 7 yards, and their entire disposition is downhill. So they now have 9 guys that they can easily insert into the box. Okay, and then out here, you've got a one-on-one and a one-on-one. There's no way this guy is going to be able to, in my opinion, to help out with that. And if he does, it's because you've got something going on over here. So, play action, pass it for sure. You've got a one-on-one down here. There were just so many opportunities. This was a first half play. There were so many opportunities in the first half where this is when we said last night, Ohio State is daring you to throw the ball down the field, and they didn't do it.
And the other thing I want to point out here, and
first half they didn't do it.
This is a great screenshot because if you look at the receiver corner matchup at the bottom of the screen there, right, you can see where they're lined up. This corner is playing inside leverage. He's not even playing outside leverage. You would think that he would be playing outside leverage, which means he's lined up a little bit on the outside, forcing the receiver to go inside, right? Because that's where he has help. He's actually playing a little bit more to the inside. And allowing
there's no way this guy's helping him.
No chance.
Because who is this guy keyed on, Vince? Who's he keyed on?
He's keyed on the
Michael Mayer.
Correct.
Michael Mayer.
Yes.
Looking right. So, this is what we talked about going in. Vince, you brought this up too. Remember last week we talked about this. The reason that we felt that Ohio State was going to load the box is because it also takes care of Mayer.
Yes.
Because they can play through Mayer to the running back. And that's what they did all night. And this is another example of that.
So my point here is that he is giving outside release to the wide receiver where he does not have help. They're saying, go ahead, take an outside release. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And that's what bothers me the most because that's a one step and just put it up. My guy can get around your guy faster. One-on-one. He's not going to have any safety help. He's giving you the outside release. That was maddening to me. It was maddening to me. So this is a great screenshot of that, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Brian.
And real quick in response to a comment, Michael Mayer is not too heavy at 265. He may be listed at 265 on the roster. Michael Mayer is actually 5 pounds lighter than he was last season. So if we're going to have criticisms, that's all fair. At least be accurate with your criticism and what you're going to say about the team. And that's fine. You can criticize, just be accurate, okay? So, Vince, this is another example of what Ohio State was showing a lot of the first half that I felt like Notre Dame did not they were not prepared for, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And, to me, I'm going to bring up another example. Here we have several of these examples. This is another one. Okay. I mean, Notre Dame's in a bunch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that are technically in the box, and then an 8th guy right here who can easily insert himself off the edge or into the box.
Yes.
Just outnumbered all night. And at some point in time, again, another guy inside leverage. Another example where they're basically kind of baiting you into, I dare you to throw the ball down the field.
Correct.
Now, Notre Dame, the other issue is in this particular play as an example, Ohio State had a good feel for what Notre Dame's protections were going to be. And this play is a perfect example, Vince, because Notre Dame was in basically the running back free released here. I think it was a wheel route, but it was a free release, which means Notre Dame only has 5 guys blocking. Now, technically, Ohio State here, this was another issue last night that Notre Dame had a problem with. That I noticed there were execution problems, but also some protection problems schematically. Okay, so what Ohio State did here is they could have brought more numbers than Notre Dame had, from the whole line standpoint, but they didn't. But what they were doing is they were beating Notre Dame with numbers to a side. So on this particular play, this end drops, and then they only had 1, 2, 3. I believe one of these 2 guys came. I forget which one it was, and then the linebacker came here. So they actually only brought 5 guys on this particular play. But what happened is they crashed this side and they crashed out here. So this guy went wide. And then the linebacker came here through this A gap. And the issue is that Josh Lugg and Blake Fisher both ended up taking this guy, the 3 technique, because the end dropped. And so on this particular play, Zeke Correll helps out here with the left guard to take on these 3 guys over to this side. And then they bring Tommy Eichenberg here.
Oh, that was the sack.
And Zeke Correll never steps to him. Well, I'm curious if Zeke Correll actually should have stepped to him on that particular play. I'd be curious. Go ahead.
Can I break in on this? This is the first sack, right? This is the first sack of the game because I remember this play and I wrote it down. Anyway, so what happened, in my opinion, was I think the left side did it right.
Bingo.
Josh Lugg, because of what you just said, they were overloaded on the left. They were not anticipating the drop, right? So he opens up to take the 3. He turns himself almost a complete 90 degrees this way, right?
Like
the problem with that, you need to stay square to the line of scrimmage. You're not a tackle anymore. You can't open yourself up like that. You have to stay square because if he would have stayed square, he would have seen the linebacker coming off of his left side, and he could have stepped over and gotten that guy, or at least gotten a hand on him. I don't need you to pancake him in that regard.
And the issue is, Vince, he's got to step to that side, stay square. Now, there comes a point in time where he may have to engage that guy, depending on what the rush does. So if he steps square and this 3 technique beats him here, or let's say he would have slanted inside, then he's going to take that on. But as soon as this guy kind of goes out here, that's now Blake Fisher's dude.
Exactly.
So your eyes need to be prepared for 2 things. Is this guy coming inside, or is this guy coming inside?
Which is why you have to stay square.
See that?
Yes.
Okay, this guy's crossing, so clearly, so I got to get my eyes inside and protect this inside A gap, and he doesn't do it. And, so to me, now, we could be wrong. It may have been Zeke Correll's guy.
But that was my read on the situation.
But the point is, they didn't bring more numbers than Notre Dame had. They had a good read on what Notre Dame was doing, and Notre Dame wasn't able to pick it up. So I think that, to me, was an issue where I thought Jim Knowles had a really good plan for what Notre Dame's protection scheme was, and Notre Dame never really adjusted. And so when you talk about the things that weren't we didn't talk a lot about this last night because it's not something we really see live. We've got to kind of go back in the film and watch it. It looked live like, okay, Zeke Correll screwed up. He may still have screwed up, but I have some more reservations about who actually it was
on that one
that screwed up on that particular play.
And it looked like it was him because it came from his side. And normally you're like, okay, well, it's a pass off and a go.
And he's just double teaming and the guy runs here and he doesn't do anything, I mean, that's what we don't know. Like, I don't know if it was a half slide man, and then, more of a man protection here or if it was a mic protection without where the quarterback's got to take care of the mic. Those are the different things that you look at. But either way, it was not executed appropriately by the Notre Dame offense. And so one of the other things we talked about in the game, Vincent, and we're not going to kind of go through the whole game. We're just going to kind of go through different things.
We're just going to highlight some
through
stuff.
Film. Yeah. And for me, one of the things that I did want to kind of get to is I was frustrated that they weren't more prepared to be aggressive in the first half early in the game. But one of the things we said last night that I now through film say, okay, I'm amending that, is they were more aggressive in the second half and they did make adjustments. And I'm going to go through a couple examples of missed opportunities that Notre Dame had. And this is one particular play. I believe this was the first play of the second half, or it was one of the early plays of the second half. And basically Notre Dame runs a kind of a stop route here by Braden Lindsey. Lorenzo Styles runs a wide fade here. Then they just had kind of double ends here. This safety, Tyler Buckner, did a pretty good job of kind of locking him in the middle of the field. And by the time he was ready to release it, the safety was not going to make a play on it. Lorenzo Styles just flat ran by the guy, Vince. I mean, he had him beat by
the first down. This was the first down play of their first series.
Right.
Yeah. This is the overthrow. Yeah. Right. So this was the overthrow.
I thought it was the first play. This was the overthrow.
Yeah. Yep. It was the overthrow. And I just want to say, I saw a million times in the chat last night, Buckner had an opportunity and he overthrew him, et cetera, et cetera. He did. He overthrew him, but he also had a guy right here when he threw the ball. And when you're getting hit and you throw the ball, it generally lofts a little bit. I'm not making an excuse, but it's not like he was throwing from a clean pocket.
He's going to have to. He's going to have to learn to make that play, though.
Absolutely.
Right? I can excuse it in game 1. I'm not excusing it in game 4 or 5.
Correct.
Right? I'm not excusing it, but look, you got to make this play. You've got to make this play
because you don't have a lot of opportunities. Agreed.
But to your point, that was the other thing I was going to bring up. Is to your point, is Vince is he did not make the play, but he also had a guy in his face.
Correct.
And this kind of ties into
who came clean
to what we were.
I mean,
right. It points to, like I said, another example of, you've got to do a better job of protecting your quarterback. I mean, the opportunities are there. You've got to do a better job of protecting your quarterback. I'm going to try to find the next look that we had on this particular concept because they went back to it a little bit later in a different type of look that again was there. Just give me a second to find it here. That's not it. Where did it go? Where's that play at? Just give me a second, folks. I got all these clips here, and I'm trying to find that particular play. Okay, here we go. So here we go. So here's this next clip right here. So this is later in the half. This is the second half again, and you have a similar concept here where you get kind of a quick stop route, and this time it's Braden Lindsey is running the wide fade. Now, you've got a wide fade by Braden Lindsey. This safety is all the way over here on this hash. Okay, now one of the issues is Jaden Thomas just got destroyed off the line of scrimmage, which was not good. And so basically you did isolate here. You got an isolation of Braden Lindsey on a safety, and Tyler Buckner gets back, and he never gets a chance to get the throw off because of another pressure. And so the problem is you made adjustments schematically with your pass game, but you never figured out a way to protect the quarterback. And that was a bit of an issue for me. And I don't remember if they had the back step in or if the back free released again. I should have wrote that down. I did not write that down. But again, this is another opportunity where they went they were trying to go deep with an isolation throw. They put Braden Lindsey as the number 2 receiver, right? We talked about ways that you should have been able to get your best players lined up against situations. And that's something we complained about last night, Vince. Well, this is another example of in the second half where they did it. But the problem is you couldn't protect it.
Right, correct.
And that was the thing last night, that you made an adjustment here, but you didn't make an adjustment or figure out a way to protect it. And then your line didn't execute those protections. Now, I don't know if it was the quarterback not making the call. I don't know what the answer was or why that is. We'd have to know more about what the call was. But in this particular situation, Vince, this is another shot. So you had the overthrow to Styles where you took a shot. You had this play here where you couldn't get the ball off. You took another shot later with Matt Salerno. I don't think that should have been the shot they should have taken.
Right.
But then you have this.
That was the one where the other side of the field, right? It was the other side of the field.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And then you also had a shot, I believe, in the third quarter to Lindsey that was completed.
Right.
And so I'm going to kind of take back a little bit of one of my criticisms of the offensive staff and Tommy Rees because of that right there, because of the fact that I do think that they made some adjustments in that regard. Now, the criticism that remains is, okay, you can't adjust one part if you're not giving yourself time and protection to throw that one part.
Yeah.
And so the criticism isn't completely taken away, Vince.
Right.
It's still there, right?
And I will also say, and the touchdown drive that they had, that Notre Dame had in the first half, was honestly, from a play calling standpoint, from an execution standpoint, it was a thing of beauty because they simplified their run game. They weren't trying to be cute. They weren't trying to move their linemen all over the place. It was straight ahead. It was duo. It was zone. It was here we come with our big old back. It was a bunch of misdirection. It was RPOs.
There wasn't. Are you talking on the first touchdown drive?
Right.
There wasn't really any misdirection on that. They were getting more downhill on that one, other than the quarterback read zone. Unless
that's what I meant.
As a misdirection.
I'm sorry. That's what I was referring to. It was moving people around, that kind of a thing. It was,
Okay.
abusing the seam with the second tight end, right? They were doing all of these things that we have seen and that we've talked about, and it was beautiful. And I thought Tommy Rees kept the defense off, on their heels that entire drive. It's why they drove down the field the way that they did, right? And then they just didn't go back to it. And that's what was hard for me, because I saw it in that game. And even on film, I was like, oh man, what a great play call at that moment. You know what I mean? It was a great job where they faked the pitch. And then that was the play where they hit Bauman on the seam, because when they faked the pitch, every single one of the linebackers bit and went towards the pitch, and it opened up the seam. I mean, it was like Moses parting the Red Sea. There was nobody there. It was perfect, right? So it was really good play calling, really good execution. They drove right down the field and scored a touchdown. I just wish they could have built off of that moving forward in the game, and they didn't.
There's another play, Vince, here too, that I'm pulling up now that I want to bring up, but I guess my thing is even in the second half, as we kind of talk about the different things that I wanted to see more of, even then there were still too many times in my view here's I guess this is what I'm saying, Vince. There were times in this game where they schemed things up to try to get an ISO and get that type of situation. But what we still didn't see enough of, in my opinion, was times where they were just willing to say, you know what, forget it. We're just going to take a shot. And that was kind of the thing where sometimes it's about the scheme and drawing it up. And other times it's just, you know what, like you've got to trust your guys more. And I'm going to bring up a perfect example of what we were talking about here right now. In this particular play. So if you just give me 1 second, I got to transfer it over, and then we'll have it. But I wanted, and you're going to know what play I'm talking about, Vince, here as soon as I bring it up. So just give me a second, everybody. So I remembered this play that I wanted to bring up from last night. Here it is. Okay, this is the play that they drew up to Matt Salerno, right? So what happened was the Salerno was out here and he motioned inside. They ran a play action and he basically ran a wide fade here. Okay, now I got no issue with Matt Salerno. He had a nice catch last night. He's a nice, solid player. But here's my thing, Vince. Sometimes you can draw it up all you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys. 10 guys. Bam. Inside leverage against Braden Lindsay, right?
And also, to me, I will also say use Salerno on that. Use him to come across, because you're going to be testing the eye discipline of those guys in the box too. And even though there's really no way they're going to be able to get out and help on that one-on-one at the top of the screen, they're still going to be coming this way because of that action to the left. That is such an easy fake to the left.
But I don't even need the action. Boom. I don't even need the action. This is where I'm coming from.
I know.
I don't need the action. I don't need to scheme it. I don't need to do whatever. Trust Braden Lindsay. And if you can't, then find someone you can. Right? Trust Braden Lindsay, because here's my thing. It's a one-on-one against a corner playing inside. Braden Lindsay has gotten deep a couple times in this game already. This is one of those things where we talk about the training wheels. Here's what needs to happen, Vince. The training wheels need to be, hey, man, you see this play?
Go for it.
I don't care what the call is. I don't care what the call is here, Vince. You see this play, Tyler, you're catching it and you're banging it, right? They did an inside release like stop route. I don't care if they got to do some kind of sign language. Bruh, bam, go.
It's one of these.
Don't need play action.
Whatever.
Don't need checks. I don't need to fool any of these dudes. None of them. I don't need to fool any of them. Look, y'all. Right here, who is the fastest? Okay, Darrell Green could be back here playing corner, back here playing safety. Right here, he ain't getting over there on an outside go route.
No chance. No chance.
I don't care if he takes off at the snap. If Tyler Buckner catches it, gets to the top of his drop, and throws that ball deep, there's not a safety in America, in the National Football League or in college football, that is getting off this hash and getting out here to defend that go route if it's 1, 2, 3, go. Not a
And I will also say, when they're in
Not
press
a
coverage like this, a stop route or a hitch or whatever, that's not the route you run against press coverage.
Right. Well, they ran like some kind of like post stop, like right here.
Oh, okay.
Which again,
Gotcha.
you're running him back into
But you're running
here.
him towards where everybody is.
Right. So those are some of those things where we talk about training wheels. Take them off.
Yeah.
Take them off. Let them go. So look, we can look at it one of two ways, right, folks? We can say, oh, this is bullcrap. This is why you lost. Okay, sure. It is what it is. But these are the things that Tom Reese needs to look at the film and say, you know what? This is the one we got to get to. This is the one we got to get to, right? Because as we said last night, look, this football team is not out of anything yet. Now, we're not talking about playoff right now because this team's got a long way to go to get there offensively. But my point is these are things that are there that they need to take advantage of, right? And that they need to adjust to and be prepared to say, hey, Tyler, we don't need to overthink this, buddy, right? Let's just go get it. And so now we talk about coaching too, Vince. But the reality is there were some mistakes last night from the player standpoint as well. And those are things to me that need to get corrected and need to get figured out, because to me, and you know, you can say that's a coaching thing, but there was a lot of execution mistakes. We're going to talk about the offensive line here in a minute, Vince, because I know you want to talk about the offensive line. But here's a particular play. This is the end of a play where Notre Dame gets stopped on third down. I think it was a 3rd and 6 here, Vince. This safety right here was covering Michael Mayer.
Yeah, this is early.
Right here. Yeah. Let me get this pen working. I didn't know it could be out of ink when it's this kind of thing. This guy was playing Michael Mayer man-to-man. He was playing off. Now he's coming downhill, not because
3rd and 7.
Not because he was coming downhill to snap. He's coming downhill because Michael Mayer stopped and turned for the ball.
Correct.
Now, I don't know if this was a Michael Mayer mistake or if he was taught to go short. Don't know the answer to that. So I don't want to necessarily say Michael Mayer screwed up. I don't know. There was a screw up, but it could have been a coaching thing. But my thing is this guy's man-to-man. So what Michael Mayer needed to do, the ball was at about the 8-yard line. So he's right here. He needs to push this route vertically, and then stop.
And boom.
And then he can work inside, because if this guy tries to squeeze down, he still has room to work inside. Push that defender off the line, and then quickly turn, and you'll get a little bit more of a window. Actually, I went a little too deep there. He doesn't need to go that far. It's just kind of here, right past the sticks.
2 yards past the sticks.
Bam, right there. Because the line of scrimmage is right here, or the first down marker's right there. So it's a little thing like that to me needs to improve. There's things also that I thought Tyler Buckner had a solid first performance, but there are some things he's going to have to learn as well. I'll get to this next play. There was a couple reads that I didn't love from Tyler in the game. That it's getting the film room, show him where he messed up, show him where he needs to get better, and then it's up to him to get better. And here's a perfect example that we're going to go to right here. So on this particular play, you've got this guy is working out right here. Braden Lindsey's working a deep in cut. This is the ball. You got Jaden Thomas coming here, and Michael Mayer's running the clear out. This safety, this is the one that he threw here into it was like third down, and he threw there into extra coverage. Right, it was
like triple coverage. It felt like, yeah.
Correct. Now here's the mistake that I think Tyler made. Tyler found himself in a 3rd and I think 10 at the 35-yard line, going in. And so here he's trying to force a ball because he's thinking we got to get to the sticks. We got to get the first down, okay? Braden Lindsey's running his route past the first down marker. It's 3rd and 10 at your own 35. A 5 to 7 yard gain gets you in 2-down territory. Correct. If not field goal territory, but most likely 2-down territory here. So you had Michael Mayer running to clear out. Jaden Thomas comes open here. Tyler needs to see this safety working out this way, and he's got to know that guy's going here. I got to come backside to my backside read. Now, here's the thing, Vince. You and I have seen him make that read and make that backside throw.
Yes, I have.
What we talked about last week is we now need to see him do it in a game. And last night, he didn't get there. He stayed on his first couple reads a little too soon and didn't go to them. That's part of the learning experience that Tyler's going to have now as the starter.
And that's what comes with being a first-year starter. Right. Those are the mistakes that I anticipate, if I'm being honest. It doesn't make it okay, but I do anticipate those kinds of mistakes. Right. I do. And I also anticipate that they're going to get better as he sees it more and more and more.
Right. And that's
And I'm
part
not
of
making
it.
an
So
excuse for him, but that's part of it. Yeah.
It's a mistake. You're
It's a
playing
mistake.
Ohio State. There's no, oh, it's okay. I'm okay. There's no
Right.
I'm okays with it. It's just that
Right.
what it's more about is like, look, guys, this is a correctable thing, right? Like, here's what you need to figure out when you watch a game like last night. Is it okay? We're just not as good as we thought. I'm looking at it from a coach's standpoint, did we not coach well? Did we not prepare well? Did we not execute? Some of those answers can be troubling. Hey, we're not good enough. We just got our butt kicked here. We got our butt kicked there. When it's something where it's a, hey, we needed to do a better job coaching wise, that's a good thing in regard to it's correctable. If it comes down to this type of play where Tyler's got to see that this safety's working here and this safety's off the ball, and he's going to have that backside window opening up, use your eyes to get that guy there and then come back to Jaden Thomas. Because here's the thing. What we just said on the previous play is you got to run to the sticks. Not on this particular play. And the reason I was bringing up 5 to 7 yards is because you're in 2-down territory now. You don't need to get all 10 of those yards to move the chains. You can get back into a 5 to 7 yard range. And now all of a sudden, if you're Notre Dame, you're either A in field goal range. If you can get down to about the 20, like right now, if he just hits him right here and he gets tackled, it's at the 32-yard line. You're now in 4th and 7. So you either are going to attempt a 49-yard field goal, or you go for it on 3rd and 7, which is 4th and 7, which is a lot more,
more manageable than what you're dealing. Yeah, exactly.
Or Jaden catches it here, runs for 2 or 3 yards, gets tackled, and now you're in a 46 to 47-yard field goal range, or you're in 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 4.
Yeah,
or 4th and 5 and 4th and 4. Right.
It was just 3rd and 11. It was 3rd and 11. I mean, again, get half, get a little bit more, and you're good.
If you're back deeper, 3rd and 11, you got to get to the sticks. But here it's about field wear. So why are we critical of throwing the ball short of the sticks in the pass play than we are here? Because in the previous play, if you throw short of the sticks and he gets tackled, it's a punt. Here, if you throw short of the sticks, it's still an opportunity for a 4th down play because you're now in 2-down territory. And those are some of the missed opportunities we saw last night, Vince. So, you talk about going short on that play, going short on Michael Mayer when you're backed up. That's a big field position thing, missing Braden or Tyler or Lorenzo Styles on a deep ball, missing, Matt Salerno pass interfering, which I still think was a very questionable call. Missing an opportunity with Braden Lindsey where he's open, but you don't have time to get him the ball. So there were things like that we saw last night that you say, I'm ticked. It's not okay, but it's correctable. You just got to figure out how to correct it. And that's going to be the key here over the next 2 weeks before you go play North Carolina. Look, Notre Dame could play exactly how it played last night. If Notre Dame plays on all phases of the game the next 2 weeks like they did last night, they're 2-1 going to play North Carolina.
No question. That's without any improvement anywhere. Right. They're absolutely 2-1, covering all spreads and everything else. Like that, it will not be an issue. Agreed.
Right. So that's kind of when you look at it, Vince, that's the part where I look at and say, okay, that's where they've got to get to on offense. And then the final part, Vince, and I know this is kind of where you wanted to get to.
Yeah. Offensive line, right? That's where we're going. I mean, and look.
Yeah. I want to talk about offensive line and tight ends because the tight end blocking in this game was at times average and at times bad. And that's not a good thing. Not a good thing.
No, absolutely.
So
let's go. I was, the offensive line, in my opinion, and I think in Brian's opinion too, I don't want to speak for him, but that was an area that we were expecting vast improvement. I mean, vast improvement, right? And seeing it at practice, hearing the coaching, I mean, it was all pointing in that direction. And then in this game, look, the Ohio State defensive line.
It was improved. It was improved.
It was not last year.
Nearly enough.
It was not last year. Okay. They played better last night than at any point last year. Okay. I will say that, especially considering the competition that they were going up against. Okay. Because that definitely had something to do with it. Okay.
Right. But that ain't the standard Harry Heastand's going to be okay with.
100%. And it's not a fluke that the offensive line got better as the season went on last year and as the schedule got worse. Okay. Right. So there is that as well that we do have to talk about. Okay. the offensive line last night, and I'll be kind of general about this because I don't think anybody stood out on the offensive line, to be honest with you, and that includes the tight ends. They weren't driving through there. Now there were a couple times, like for example, on that touchdown drive, right? The goal line or the first and goal. They moved the Ohio State defensive line into the end zone. They did. They reestablished the line of scrimmage. There were times where they got pushed and they got movement on that drive.
Yeah, on that first touchdown drive, not even just on that first and 10 goal line, but I mean they got to push that whole series.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
They
like as I was watching
yes.
as I was watching, it's like, okay, well maybe the offensive line wasn't as bad as I thought. And then I watched the rest of the game.
Well, what we thought live was, okay, this is going to be the drive that gets them going.
And you stick with it and and it didn't. But it was, and I'm not blaming the fact that Jarrett Patterson wasn't in the game. I'm not prepared right now if I'm Notre Dame coaching staff to just start replacing everybody, because I don't think that's the answer either. Because nobody, we're going to get a brand new 5? Like, is that the plan? Like all 5 guys are fired after one game. We're going to put 5 new guys in. Guys, that's not how you operate a football team. Okay. It's just not. So I want to put that to bed right now. I'm not asking for anybody to be replaced.
Carell, for example, Zeke Carell's, because Zeke Carell's the guy that Zeke Carell and Josh Lugg are the whipping boys right now, right? And based on the play last night, I get it. And the last time we saw Zeke Carell, he wasn't playing well. I get it. But he won the starting job over the course of an entire spring, summer, and fall. And so my thing with them is, I will say this, Vince, they better fix it quickly. That's the thing with those two guys, is they can't afford a lot more of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, guys aren't getting replaced against Marshall, I don't think. Well, here's the decision they have to play is, who do you replace Patterson with? Lugg or Carell or Kristofic? That's a decision I think they have to make. Somebody's getting replaced when Jarrett Patterson comes back. What's the lineup that makes that work? I don't have an answer to that. Okay. But the point is that you don't overreact based on all spring, all fall, or all summer, and then fall camp after one game. But I'm also not going to have a very long leash on them either, because there's too many other guys that I think could maybe help you, that I'm not going to put up with that for too long at this point in time.
And I get that, but I'm not making a rash decision after one game.
Right. 100% agree. 100% agree. 100%
and look, that's great. Can I pull this up?
Yes, I was getting ready to do that, actually. I was getting ready to click on it when you clicked on it. Yes.
And look, I love the fact that everybody loves Rocco Spindler. Yeah. I love that. That's great. Yeah. That's awesome. But he's clearly right now on the depth chart the 4th guard. Otherwise, he would have started last night. So is that the answer? I don't know. Maybe. But you can't be I'm sorry, you just can't make rash decisions like that, okay?
Right. But anyway, let's land the plane about the play of the offensive line last night.
Yes. So they as a whole, they did not play well. There were mistakes that Fisher made. There were mistakes that Alt made. There were mistakes that all 3 guys on the interior made. Yeah. They weren't finishing blocks. They weren't communicating very well, which is
their feet
surprising to me. Yeah, the communication and the stopping into the feet were really disturbing to me, because that is the fundamental stuff that I physically heard Harry Heastand yelling at these guys about, okay? That's what is just maddening to me about the whole thing, okay? They have to get better. They have to get better. We've been trumpeting the praises of Harry Heastand. He's got the track record to prove that and to warrant that, and I'm fine with it. But he's got his work cut out for him. Now, he's got 2 get-right games to get there. Let's go. But this offensive line has to get better. They have to get better. Have to.
Yeah. No question. The things I thought they played hard, but they didn't play fundamentally well. And so the thing that we asked this offseason was, how quickly can this line get rolling? Will it be the opener? Will it be game 4? Will it be the end of the year? We didn't know the answer to that. What we learned last night, one thing I said before the game too, is this is a measuring stick game for Notre Dame, and it was very true for the offensive line, because they reverted back to a lot of bad habits that you have seen, that I have seen video of from fall camp, that you guys have sent me from your times of practice, And we saw in the spring game, this is not the way they played in the spring game, where they were coming off. Like there was a play where Josh Lugg comes off. He's got a really nice base. He strikes a guy, and then he just stops his feet right in the hole. Big old wide feet right in the hole. There's a play where Andrew Kostofik is pulling around, and he's got a linebacker in his sights, and he just stops his feet and catches the guy.
Yeah.
I know that's not what Harry Heastand teaches.
I know he doesn't.
So now it's going to be up to him to say, okay, how do you then get him to go to take this stuff from practice to games? Well, number one is just play more games, right? Because practice, you can never completely replicate games in practice. And then number two is accountability, Vince, to your point. I'm not making rash changes now, but how you react to how you played last night is going to be something that is going to cause me to make some changes. And that's in the film room, in the practice session. Are you sulking in practice?
Bingo.
Do you step out next week against Marshall and kind of take it out on Marshall a little bit? Those things you need to see, because there was way too much, not catching. They weren't catching last night, Vince. They were hitting and stopping. Mm-hmm. That was the thing, is like, it wasn't like the coming
they
off.
They were firing off. I felt like they fired off to a degree. But they stopped
better than last year, not where they need to be.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
But so it wasn't. No, we're on the same page. Yeah. I'm just trying to clarify so people understand. They weren't catching like last year. They would just kind of come up, take a lateral step, and then catch. They were stepping to the lineman, hitting them, and then stopping. And Ohio State's kids were too big and too talented to do that with and then win. The other thing is those Ohio State kids were using their hands well to get off blocks. And once you stop your feet, if a kid knows how to use his hands at all, you're going to get beat. And so we saw a lot of that last night. And that had to be driving Harry Heastand nuts. Because here's the thing, Vince. Once you stop your feet as an offensive lineman, odds are you're not athletic enough to then start them again.
Correct.
Once they stop, they stop. And so those are areas where they're going to have to get better, right? How quickly can they get better? I thought at times in the pass pro, they got their hands too wide. Blake Fisher and Joe Alt, they got their hands too wide, and they let the Ohio State kids get into their chest.
And that's when you lose.
Correct that.
And that's where you lose leverage, because if they get into your chest, you're going to get stood up, and you're going to lose that, and that's not good.
Here's the reality: the next several opponents don't have defensive ends as big as Jack Sawyer and JT and Zach Harrison, guys like that, to take advantage of it. But you know who does? Clemson. So you got 7 games to get that figured out. Well, 3 games before you got to go play BYU, who will give you a test, but then really 7 games before your next huge test. Because if Notre Dame beats BYU, you're supposed to be BYU. You're Notre Dame. Right? But Clemson's that next big test that can present. Because here's the thing, Vince. Marshall can't present the same physical challenges to Notre Dame that Ohio State did.
Absolutely.
So you could go out there and just dominate them, and you don't necessarily know, okay, did they fix it, or are they just overwhelming and inferior?
Right.
That's the question that we need to find out, right?
Yep.
And so, but you can start to see, okay, is the hand placement getting tighter? Is the feet moving? Like, those are positive signs.
And those are things we can watch.
Let's see you do it. Let's see you do it when that. But if you're not doing it going into Clemson for several games, then you're not going to do it all of a sudden when you play Clemson on November 5th. Right. So those are the things they got to fix. Communication, Vince, you said it earlier, and I jumped on a comment, and you didn't get to finish it. So that's on me, because it's a really good point. The communication last night from the offensive line seemed to be
lacking.
Yeah,
it was lacking,
and it wasn't just them; it was other groups as well. But I'm sorry.
But offensive.
Sorry, man.
But offensive line wise, if I have anything when it comes to an offensive line, I need communication. So if I'm coaching an offensive line, the first thing we're going to get down is how to communicate with each other and how to work as one. Right. I can get a lot accomplished with some lesser talented guys if they communicate and they're in the right place. Because what is the job of an offensive lineman? Is to get in the damn way. Okay, that's all you got to do. And if they could have done
ferocity,
of course. But you at least need to know where the stuff is coming. You have to know where the pressures are coming. You have to be able to communicate with each other, and not necessarily just by words, but you have to know what's going on. You have to understand. If you're on a double team and you've got one hand on your buddy and you got one hand on the guy that you're double teaming, you give him a pat and you're off to the next level. And he understands that, okay, now I've got to take this over and it's mine, right? There are certain things that you have to be able to do. And I just didn't see it last night the way that I anticipated seeing it. Now, is that something they can get better at? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But the communication was lacking. And it was very disappointing to me because I thought that would be the first thing that would have looked a ton better than it has.
Yeah. Agree.
Rant over.
Agree. No, and the same thing was true at the tight end level. I mean, I was really disappointed with the consistency of the tight end blocking. I mean, and it was the same thing. Like there was a play where I think it was Bauman, and Mayer wasn't good blocking last night at all. There was a play where Bauman, it looked like some kind of wrap out of the end zone, and Mayer, or I think it was Bauman, kind of runs around and he like runs past two linebackers. Like he was looking outside instead of getting his eyes on the linebackers for looking for that guy that is going to cross and he's going to have to pick up. And so there were plays where, if you can just make one guy miss as a running back, you got your shot. Because sometimes the team's going to outnumber you, whether it's at pre-snap or post-snap. What was happening last night, Vince, was there was a play where, schematically, it was. I think it was the same play I'm talking about. It was a first half wrap out. I think it was first quarter. It was a wrap out of the end zone. Might have been second or third series. Wrap play, meaning a guy's kind of coming around. It wasn't really a counter play because there was only one puller. That's why I think it looked like a wrap play with the tight end coming around. But they're down blocking. Blake Fisher takes kind of a bad angle. The defensive end beats him upfield. Kevin Bauman runs by two guys, and all of a sudden there's three guys right on Audric Estime. And it's kind of like if Blake Fisher does his job and Kevin Bauman does his job, then Audric's just got to make one guy miss.
Right.
And he's picking up a first down.
Right.
Right. But when you're having to make 2-3 guys miss, and then you're making a miss behind the line of scrimmage, because the other thing is because Blake Fisher missed his guy, Audric had to make that guy try to miss immediately. He never got a chance to build up steam to then run over the next guy. Like there was a play where Tyler Buckner was able to kind of get downhill on the touchdown drive, and Cody Simon steps in the hole. And so Buckner just puts his shoulder down and runs him over and pushes him forward for 3 yards. Well, if Tyler Buckner can do that, what's Audric Estime going to do?
Right.
That was a tough run by Tyler. It's like, he was going to juke, and he was like, screw it, I'm going to run you over. And he ran him over.
And the best part about that was it was one guy between him and the end zone, right? And it was a great read by Tyler. It was it was right to keep it.
Right. And Cody Simon did a good job of reading it.
And he did a good job of reading it. The best part, I was just waiting, and I know that this has nothing to do with film review, but I'm getting on my little soapbox. The announcers were hilarious to me on that because it was all about what a great play it was by the defense. And they didn't even mention the fact that the kid got run over by a quarterback.
Right.
Like that's what I took out of it, is that my coach in high school always used to say, you're either the hammer or you're the nail. Tyler Buckner was the hammer on that one. He picked up 3 yards because he's a man, and it was awesome. And I love to see that from my quarterback running the ball when he's supposed to run the ball, right? There's time to slide and all that, but that was awesome. Loved every second of that.
Vince, last thing for me offensively is there was a lot of sloppiness last night too. Like little things like, for example, Braden Lindsey does the right thing of telling Lorenzo Styles to get lined up correctly, which first of all, Lorenzo stinking get lined up correctly. But then Braden tells him to move, and then he takes off running before Lorenzo gets set because he was rushed because the ball was getting snapped. There was a play where they sent a back on a jet motion and to snap the ball. Then Lorenzo Styles took off running, and he almost ran into the back. Do you remember the play I'm talking about? It was like an inside zone. It was the weirdest looking play.
Yeah.
But there was like 3 guys over there. I think it was either Lindsey or a back goes in jet motion pre-snap. And then at the snap, Lorenzo's in the slot, and he takes off like he's now running a jet post-snap, and he runs right into Audric Estime. And there's just a lot of sloppiness last night. And I'm not a big fan of sloppiness in the opener because you've had all fall camp to get ready. You knew you're running this stuff. You've had 2 extra weeks to prepare for this. That was problematic for me. I thought that the Notre Dame team last night played hard. I thought they were emotionally ready to play this game.
I agree.
They were not fazed by Ohio State's the noise, the number of fans, Ohio State's ranking, none of that stuff. They weren't fazed by any of that stuff. They just didn't execute.
And that was a hostile environment. I mean, that was as hostile as it gets when it comes to an environment.
Because what have we always said? What was one of the concerns I had, Vince? They didn't come ready to play.
Right. It was a business trip.
They weren't mentally ready to play.
Right.
They were physically and emotionally ready to play last night. They weren't mentally ready to play from an execution standpoint offensively. Defensively, they were. And so that's another reason, Vince, where I look at this and say, I'm not happy about last night, but as a coach, I'm like, you know what? We're going to be all right because this stuff is fixable. But now it's up to the coaches to fix it. So let's just talk a little bit about the defense, Vince. And we got a couple
Please.
super chats that we're gonna get here defensively. Went back and watched that play, Vince. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes,
about the
the
defense.
touchdown pass.
We'll get to that pass later because I'm going to
Okay.
find the clip here for you.
Gotcha.
But
we need to talk about that. We need to.
Yeah. So overall, what are some things as we watch the defense that we saw last night?
So obviously, and I said this in the open, I was very impressed with the secondary last night as we were, stuck in the parking garage and we were talking and, all of these different things. And then, in the 5-hour drive home and we're talking and the secondary, and we talked, specifics about Benjamin Morrison and Clarence Lewis and Brandon Joseph and, whoever the safety was across from Brandon Joseph at times, right? I was impressed with the secondary then. Then I watched the film and I was even more impressed with the secondary. I felt like Stroud had no idea. He was confused an awful lot. They tried to go deep an awful lot and they couldn't do it because it was covered. Plain and simple. It was covered downfield. I thought the secondary played tough. I thought now their tackling could be better from some of the safeties. There was a couple of missed tackles from the safeties. Okay. That's an issue that needs to get cleaned up. No question about it. But the secondary as a whole, I thought played excellent. Now, look, my guy Cam Hart, he did not play well at the beginning. He didn't. He tried to jump that route and it ended up being a touchdown. That's not good. You can't do that, right? Especially if you don't have safety help. If you have safety help, then okay. I guess I don't really have a problem with that. But the safety on his side was Brandon Joseph, and he was actually up playing at linebacker depth on that particular play. And so he was in front. That's his job to get in front of that, and it's Cam Hart's job to stay behind it. Cam got greedy, and he went after it. I also don't like the pass interference by Cam where he got beat.
That was an execution thing, right?
He started tugging.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not okay. After that, I thought he settled in great, right? I thought Clarence Lewis had a pretty darn good game. I thought Tariq Bracy played out of his mind. I thought he played really, really, really well. Secondary,
he was excellent.
I was very impressed with Tariq, and that's his coverage skills and his tackling, all of it. I thought he played exceptionally well. That's the secondary, right? The defensive line, Howard Cross had a pretty good game, at times. I thought the defensive line as a whole, they got some push, but not enough. They were not as disruptive as I was hoping they would be. And, of course, Isaiah Foskey was a no-show, and that's not good. The only time I heard Isaiah's name mentioned was the penalty after the extra point. That's not okay. That's not good. So he needs to step up. The defensive line as a whole, I think, needs to step up. Linebackers, okay? I didn't think the linebackers played poorly. I thought that they took on blocks a little bit too much, right? Now, I want them stepping in. I want them getting their nose in there. I want them fitting, but don't stay on the block. You've got to be able to get off blocks. And I thought at times they weren't able to get off blocks, and that was a bit of a problem, okay?
A few times it was because of holds, but that can't be the excuse for all the time. That can't be the excuse,
right? And there was a couple times they didn't set the edge, which was.
And sometimes I've always felt with a linebacker, if you get held as a linebacker, that's partly on you,
right? Could not agree. You got to get small. You got to
don't let that guy get on your hand. Don't let him get on his hands on you like that, right?
Exactly. You can't square up like that. That's not okay. So obviously as a whole, I think the defense played pretty darn good. They held Ohio State to 21 points. Okay. Right. Now, a lot of that has to do with the scheme and the play calling of Al Golden. I give him an A+, AA+ for what he was able to do. First time calling plays in 17 years or whatever it is. I thought he did a fantastic job. Okay. And I know everybody's going to say, well, what about that third down touchdown? We're going to talk about that. Okay. I thought he did a great job. And I thought the players, for the most part, executed what he wanted to do. And I will also say, I don't anticipate the defensive line playing like they did last night for the rest of the season. I anticipate them getting better. I think this is a one-off, right? I think this is a one-off. And I will say that if the secondary, and you said this in the car, I'm going to give you credit for this. You said it in the car about the secondary. If they play the way they played last night, the rest of the way, Notre Dame's not getting beat the rest of the season. They're not.
No. because there's nobody else on the schedule like Ohio State. And that's the other thing we got to remember about this game last night is, like, what was the question that you asked me in the card today? We were talking about, look, you for all the stuff that I'm ticked about, you lost to the number
2,
the number 2 team in the country, and your question was, but I really the number 2 team in the country, and I said, well, no, but I said that going in. I still believe Georgia should be number 1. I said this before they killed Oregon because I'm a believer. You're still the champ till somebody beats you, and they weren't just replacing those guys with a bunch of bums. And I felt Bama was number 2. Ohio State should be 3. So no, they shouldn't be number 2. They should be number 3. Point is, there's still 3 teams to me. There's still 3 teams to me that are better than everybody else, including Notre Dame, because Notre Dame proved last night they don't have the ability on both sides of the ball right now to play with those teams right now.
Absolutely.
And we saw that firsthand last night. You could not have played. Well, actually, you know what's funny is they could have played better. You had 2 blown coverages that resulted in touchdowns. That's the other thing, is 2 blown coverages. Now, I do want to talk about that play. I have a little bit of a different opinion of that play, Vince, after I watched it. No. The Jaden Mickey one, okay. The double the safety pressure.
Okay.
I have a little bit of a different view of that play now, and I'm actually watching it now here. I'm watching the all 22 right now, and give me a second.
It's someplace.
I got a buddy of mine that always waits till I'm recording a show to call. I told you I'd call you back. So I'm watching the play, Vince, and I'm not sure that it was in fact a blown coverage schematically. Okay. I think it was a bad play by Jaden Mickey, and so what happened was is I'm going to pull the play up. I'm going to show it here real quick. So let's take a peek at this, Vince. And you tell me if you agree.
Okay.
And so here's basically kind of what happened. So this safety right here, this is the hilarious thing. Like, it won't rent like it's out of ink. These 2 safeties both came. Yep. Now, you have this guy back. So Notre Dame's basically playing. It looked like they were playing man here, and then man here, and this guy would go man free if nobody's here. But since there is a number 2 to his side, it's basically man. And so then what they did was they did a zone fire here. Let me see which guy dropped. One of the defensive linemen or linebackers dropped. This guy right here dropped. So he took 2 steps forward and then dropped underneath.
I think
it was J.D. Bertrand. I think it was him or Kaiser. I couldn't really tell.
Okay.
And then so what happens here is he is actually Jaden is actually protecting. You can see it here. His inside foot is inside the hash.
Yep, he's inside.
This guy's here. Yep. He was trying to take away the inside with his leverage.
Mm-hmm.
The guy smoked him. I'm watching it now. The receiver came off the line. Jaden sunk inside, turned his hips inside. The guy barely made an inside move, and then Jaden just took off outside. I don't know why. It wasn't even like he ran to the wide. He actually turned open up to the sideline. So as Jaden was pedaling this way, he actually turned his hips his shoulders that way. And then the guy just beat him inside. So when we saw him chasing, he was chasing because he had to spin out in return, not because he thought he had inside help. And this is why we do upon further review.
Yep.
Because it gives us a chance to go back and watch the play, study it. Now, what I don't like about it is I still don't love safeties coming from that depth.
I don't either. I would not,
especially. Go ahead, Vince.
I was just going to say, knowing the situation, right? They stopped the game to get Tariq Bracy out of the game. Correct. Everybody in the stadium knew that Tariq Bracy was coming out.
Well, let me say this before you go there. What I'm saying is I don't like this call, even if Tariq Bracy's in the game.
Okay.
I don't like a double safety fire from this kind of depth unless you're going to tell me we weren't anticipating the ball being snapped that soon, which again is inexcusable. I would rather you give it away than to be late on this particular snap. Meaning, I want to see you down here too soon, as opposed to late.
Because they were too late and it made no difference whatsoever.
Correct.
Yeah.
So to me, this is why we do upon further review, because we are going to say, hey, look, we were incorrect on this sometimes. And on this particular play, it was so poorly executed that it looked like it had to be a blown coverage. The problem I have, Vince, is you can't have that kind of poor execution coming out of a flipping timeout.
Correct.
Number one, I don't love the call. And number two, this is what you were going to say, Vince. Now explain why you don't like it from a situational. I wanted to just explain schematically.
Yeah.
I don't love this fire. You got these two guys here. You got man here. Okay. I don't love this call. You got a zone drop here. I don't love this call, period.
Right.
Okay. When it's coming from that depth. So perhaps it was poorly executed. That's an option.
And it was 3rd and 11 as well.
Right.
You got to put that out there, right?
Perhaps it was poorly executed. Perhaps it was. But I don't like it in that regard. And I especially don't like it, Vince, when you consider the circumstances that you are about to explain. So I'll let you go ahead and do that.
So the circumstances were you're losing arguably, probably not even an arguable situation, your best defensive back on the night. Okay. Or at least your best corner. Okay?
It's at least arguable for sure. But
yeah,
by
so he's
far
out.
Your best guy in the slot by far.
So he's out. You're replacing him with a true freshman. Okay. Even if I'm thinking to myself, man, this is the situation I've been waiting for to call a double safety fire. This is prime. I've seen it work in the past. Like, this is what, man, I've been licking my chops for this exact opportunity, right? But wait, I've got a true freshman on the slot, probably having him go one-on-one with no safety help. That's probably not a great idea. Right. I better leave one of the safeties back in center field just to be safe on this particular play. It's 3rd and 11. Right. This could be a turning point. All of these different things. You don't even have to think it was a turning point. It's 3rd and 11. Get them off the field. It was 10-7 at the time.
Yeah.
Right? It was 10-7. If they
this is the first drive they had put together in forever.
Right. If they miss on this, okay, it's 4th and 11 from the 24, which is a 41-yard field goal. They missed a 39-yard field goal earlier.
Now, I don't think Ruggles is missing another one. That dude missed one kick all of last year. But the point is, at worst case scenario, they tie it up.
Exactly. They don't take a lead. Momentum just completely shifts, another direction, right? I'm at least leaving one safety. And that's a situational problem that I have. If that was the call and everything you're saying is accurate, I have a huge problem with that in that one moment. I thought the rest of the game plan was really, really, really good. From a play calling standpoint, I have a huge problem with this play right here. Huge problem.
And Brandon Joseph ran right into the zone fire too, which slowed him down because there was nobody to block for him. By the time he got away around JD Bertrand, he actually I'm looking at the tight copy now. It was JD Bertrand.
Okay.
By the time he did that, the guard was able to come over and get a body on him, and then that's how Jaden got beat. So. And that's why, this conversation, this comment from Sid, play the youth, I'll take talent over experience, to a degree, Sid, I'm with you. I'm with you. And there's certain instances where I'm going to make that statement right now. But at the same time, it's like, but you also have to understand this is the risk that you run. Do you want to get a guy beat because he made a mistake, because he's young, or do you want to have a guy beat because he's simply not good enough? Either way, you got beat for a touchdown. Right. So there's got to be some sort of juggling there based on, how poor is the performance? Am I playing Jaden Mickey over Tariq Bracy? No, because Tariq Bracy's the better player right now. Am I going to try to get Jaden in the game a little bit more? Yeah, okay, sure. Right. But like offensively, I like Matt Salerno. But I'm sorry. If you're Notre Dame, this is what we said about Brian Kelly last year, right? And what I have always said is my personal feelings about Brian Kelly are not going to – and my personal feelings about Marcus Freeman, meaning I don't like one and I like the other. Personally, doesn't have anything to do with what the standard is for the head football coach in Notre Dame. And the head football coach for Brian Kelly is if he was back this year, he'd be in year 13 and there'd be no excuse for him to not be competing for a championship. Just because Marcus Freeman's in year 1 doesn't mean that he shouldn't be expected to compete for a championship, because you inherited an 11-2 football team. Okay. And so my point is you're still playing for – and I'm not saying Marcus Freeman is saying he doesn't want to play for a championship. I'm making this point. And my point is this, Vince, is that you need to be going out there thinking of every move that we are making from this point on is geared towards competing for a championship.
Sure.
Every single one. And right now, if you talk about what is going to give us as a team, if you're looking at it from a coaching standpoint, the best opportunity to go out and beat Marshall maybe it is Matt Salerno because he knows the offense. I can run a million different plays. I can run this really cool concept where I motion him down and I run him on a backside wheel route and all this kind of stuff. And schematically, it looks phenomenal. It looks great.
Right.
Looks great. But at this point in time, Vince, I don't care about that. I care about how do I get the best players on the football field. And right now, Tobias Merriweather is your most physically gifted wide receiver. And this, to me, is a moment that we've seen Notre Dame face before. And I remember in 2011, Notre Dame was in a situation where they're playing Michigan and Denard Robinson, and they blew a 24-7 fourth quarter lead as Denard Robinson is running all over the field. Notre Dame has no answers for Denard. And you get to it, and it's just like, wait a minute, why was Aaron Lynch on the bench almost the entire game?
Sure.
Why was Stephon Tuitt on the bench almost the entire game? And the explanation was it was about youth. And to Brian Kelly's credit, he went over to the other side of the ball and said, that ain't happening again. Aaron's playing and Stephon's playing. Okay? And it's one of the few times in his tenure that he was adamant that you better get the freshman on the field. And Aaron went out and had a great year. And Stephon had a pretty good season that year. But Vince, when it came down to it, that's the decision Marcus Freeman has to make at certain spots. Hey, Tommy, we love Matt Salerno. I'm not saying Matt Salerno can't play. He can. He needs to be part of the rotation. But the fact of the matter is, figure out a way to get 15 on the game. Well, coach, he doesn't know the whole offense. I don't give a crap.
I don't care.
He knows 4 plays, then you put him in and you let him run those 4 plays. Because here's the thing. On that play that we're talking about with Braden Lindsey, right? I wonder if I still have that up. Yeah, so I still have that play up, right? Here's the thing. I'm gonna find this right now. So I'm gonna hammer home this point. We're doing film sessions, right, Vince? So I'm gonna pull this up and we're gonna do it with a film session. All right, we're gonna pull it up and say, hey, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So just give me 1 second. All right. This play right here. Let me show you all something. This one right here. I don't need him to know but one route. I don't need him to know but one route. He's 6'4". He's 6 foot. He's really talented. He's really talented. I don't care about all that. I like 6'4" versus 6 foot, and I like the fact that I'm putting my most talented player on the field right there. I would reduce the splits a little bit to give him a little bit more room to work.
More room to the outside,
I'm putting my 6'4" stud freshman right there, and I don't care if he doesn't know the offense because he's got one freaking job. Beat that guy. Beat him right there. That's it. I don't need you to know 87 route combinations or checks or whatever else. Beat that guy right there. Beat him. Okay? I mean, it's as simple as that, Vince. You don't like that? You know, you want another example? Okay, fine. Let's give you another example. Again, we can do this kind of all day, right? Here's another example. Let me pull this up here real quick. This is the kind of stuff where it's like, look, at some point in time, guys, it comes down to you got to put your best dudes on the field. Here's another one, right? Here you go. This play right here, I don't need him to know. Actually, it's the wrong version of it. Let me get you the tighter version.
I was going to say, that's the version that gets you in trouble right there.
No, that's all good. That's not the version that gets me in trouble. See, why you got to start stuff, man? You're always trying to start stuff. Here we go.
I'm just saying we can't show video.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't a video.
Oh, I thought it was a video.
It was still a screenshot, but it was a different.
Gotcha.
It wasn't the angle that I got. Here's another one.
Play.
Right here. It's about as a mono as I need him to know 3 routes, right? I need him to know, and they're all built on the same thing. I need him to know how to run a go route. 6'4" versus 6'1". I need him to know that. And if this guy opens up and bails, you got to stop. Okay, cool. Should be simple. Okay, I could teach my Division III freshman receivers to do that. I know that Tobias knows how to do that. And the other one, I need him to know how to run a slant. That's it. That's it. I don't need to do anything else because if I know I'm playing a team like Ohio State and they're giving me cover 0, or cover 1, and I got this guy on the far flipping hash, I don't need Tobias to know my entire offense or my entire route package or anything else. You know what I need Tobias to do? See that dude in front of you? Go beat him. And with all due respect to Matt Salerno, he's not doing that. And if you don't trust Lorenzo and Braden to do it, then put Tobias in there to do it. Or here's a thought, trust all three of them to do it. And so to me, Vince, that's what it comes down to. I think Tommy Rees is a wicked smart dude. I do. I think sometimes really smart guys need to understand that sometimes it's just about, I got to put this dude out there and let him be a dude, right? And he doesn't need to know everything. He doesn't need to know the whole route package. He doesn't even know the whole offense. I'm going to get him good. And this is the conversation that Marcus Freeman needs to have with himself, because I think this is partly on Marcus Freeman too. It's don't make mistakes, don't make mistakes, don't make mistakes. Well, when you tell your offensive staff, don't make mistakes, don't make mistakes, don't make mistakes, they're going to be a little less hesitant, a little less kind of prone to put a freshman out there because he may make a mistake. Hey, look, guys, no, I don't want mistakes, but at the same time, we still need to figure this out. Well, coach, he doesn't know this. I don't care. And I'm not saying Tommy would make that excuse. I'm just kind of making a general of how these conversations go. You sit down and you say, 15's got to play. Chancey, Tommy, figure it out. Well, when do you want him in there? Against Marshall, when? I don't care. First series, put him in and throw him a bomb. Don't care.
Right.
You know what I mean? Second series, put him in, throw him a bomb. Don't care. Get him in the game, get him some opportunities, because when we go play BYU, we're going to need him. And when we go play Clemson in November, we're definitely going to need him. And if we handle our business the way we need to, looking at it from Coach Freeman's standpoint, when we get into December and it's college football playoff time, we're definitely going to need him then. And we're going to need Braden, and we're going to need Lorenzo. So those are your three most talented kids. Figure it out. Show faith in them. Take the training wheels off. Let them go play. You got through Ohio State. You didn't get it done. Now it's time to let these kids go play. Let Tyler Buckner learn through mistakes. Okay? And that's something that Coach Freeman said, best thing about that, best thing is he didn't turn it over. Well, he didn't turn it over, but he also didn't take enough chances.
Right.
Enough. He took some. He didn't take enough chances, or didn't have enough time to take enough chances. So you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. And so we saw that on defense. Mike Mickens showed faith last night in Benjamin Morrison, and he got rewarded for it because he played great. And that's what they need to do. And so that's the big thing for me is there's no excuse to have your most talented players standing on the sidelines simply because they don't know all of it. Now, if there's a situation where somebody got in trouble or somebody was injured or something like that we don't know about, cool.
Right.
Okay. All good. And we have to leave open the possibility that something like that is true. I don't know I don't believe that's the case. I haven't heard anything like that last night about that. So for me, that's where I'm at, man. That's where I'm at. I need to see them say, hey, look, guys, we got some time here where we're gonna be the most talented football team on the field, top to bottom, for a little bit. We got 7 games to figure it out. Nick's got Benjamin Morrison ready to go. Hey, Coach Golden, great job last night. Great job last night. You and James, you need to figure out a way to get 44 on the field. Got to figure out a way to get 44 on the field, right? No disrespect to 27, no disrespect to 52. 44 is too good not to play. Simple as that, right? I'm not saying he's got to start, but you got to figure out a way to get him on the field, right? Because I'm looking at it last night, Vince, and I see a grand total of 0 offensive snaps for Junior last night. Got to change. Got to change. Hey, coach, right? D-line, y'all don't want to make more plays? Okay, then figure out a way to get 98 on the field. Figure out a way to get 40 coming off the edge, right? Figure it out. Hey, Chancey, Tommy, 15's got to play, man. And number 25 needs the freaking ball more.
Yes.
Right? Get 25 the ball more. Hey, number 4 is pretty freaking good. There's no excuse for you to have only thrown one more pass after he went for 54 on the first play of the game. That's on us. That's on us. Okay? And that's what I want to see. And that's what accountability's got to start at the top. And I think that Tommy is that kind of guy. I do. I think that Coach Freeman's that kind of guy. Now they got to show that confidence is warranted.
Right.
And that's what I want to see. Say, look, we didn't put our guys in position to make enough plays. And the other mistakes, again, that's coaching. If my receivers aren't running good routes and are getting stupid penalties, guess whose fault that is? Mine. right? That's a coaching thing too. And now it's up to the players to
Sure.
hold each other accountable as well and say, hey, look, guys, this isn't okay. Like, you shouldn't need Harry Heastand to rip you in film tomorrow to know we weren't good enough. We didn't play
Right.
hard. We weren't physical enough. We weren't, we didn't finish. We didn't do the things we know we were taught. We don't need Coach Heastand to rip us. Now, he's still going to, but you're going to take that
Absolutely.
ripping better when you know when you know that it's the thing.
Yep.
And so that's kind of where I am. And so we got in the film room, but that's sort of it's not technically an upon further review thing from a schematic standpoint, but it is an upon further review thing from looking back and saying things. So execute better, be more aggressive with your play calling, adjust a little quicker. Again, we showed there were adjustments last night. We saw a little less 12 personnel in the second half. We are spreading the field out a little bit more to try to get them out. That's an adjustment. But you didn't execute then. You weren't protecting. You were missing with a couple throws, had a couple reads that weren't quite there yet. So the whole he didn't adjust thing, that's out the window. They did. Now, they didn't adjust enough because they adjusted with plays, but they didn't adjust the protections. But there were adjustments needed to be made. Now you need to get better at that, right? Make sure you're cleaning those things up.
Right.
You got to look at your personnel a little bit. Some dudes need to be put on notice. Hey, Zeke, man, you earned a starting job, but just because you got it now doesn't mean you got to move forward. I need you to play better. Zeke Correll's too good, and we've seen flashes of him being too good to play like he played last night.
Agreed.
And you can't keep putting him out there because of potential. So, Zeke, buddy, I love you. I think you can be a great player when you want to be. It's time to go out there and do it, right? And it's the same thing all across the board because, fellas, our objective, looking at it from Coach Freeman's standpoint, is to win a championship. And me, on down to my staff and on to the players, that's the goal. And we can't afford another night like last night because we lost last night. Again, I'm trying to look at it from the coach's standpoint, not like I think I'm part of the team because I'm not, right? I'm just trying to look at it like saying like this is what they need to be saying to
this
themselves.
is what you would say if you were the coach, yeah.
If I was in their shoes, correct, is we're now in single elimination. We can't afford that anymore. Now, you got to be able to careful not to put too much pressure on them. But look, here's where we're at. This is the bed we made. We got to lay in it. We got to make the most of it, and we're going to make it real nice. And we're going to do that by being aggressive. If we're going to go down from the rest of the year, this needs to be the mantra. Go down swinging.
Absolutely.
And that's what I didn't like about last night. They didn't go down swinging on both sides of the ball, especially on offense. Like, that double fire, that was a bad call. But you know what? It was an aggressive call. Now you got to clean it up. You got to coach it better. You got to maybe call it at a different time. Maybe if Tariq Bracy's in the game, I don't hate the call if it's executed better, meaning bringing the safeties down. And personnel-wise, you had the right two safeties. It was Ramon Henderson and Brandon Joseph. If any of your safeties are going to be blitzing, it's those two guys.
Sure.
So the personnel were right from the blitzing standpoint. The personnel wasn't right from who you had at nickel. But you know what? That was Al Golden saying, hey, Jaden's had a great camp. We're going to trust him. Now it's up to Coach Mickens to say, hey, man, we got to make sure he doesn't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
We got to do a better job of getting the safeties prepared. Hey, O'Leary, we got to make sure that this is timed better. So all of that stuff is correctable, Vince.
Absolutely.
Who played, who didn't play, correctable. So correct it. And we'll see if they come out next week, and I think they will. If you watch the press conference, Coach Freeman looked a little pissed off.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was kind of happy about that. And he said some things that concerned me, and he said some other things that I really liked. But one of the things he said that I loved was at the very beginning. He was like, fellas, there's no such thing as a moral victory. Right. Now, here's the funny thing is, perception-wise, that was a moral victory because there's a lot of people that have more respect for Notre Dame today than they did yesterday. But that's not how he's looking at it. The other head coach back in the day would eat that stuff up, Vince. Eat it up. Hey, you know what?
Oh, yes.
But he was like, dude, the first thing he said in the press conference, there's no such thing as a moral victory. I'm actually going to read the quote because I really liked what he said, Vince, and it made me like, okay, he gets it. He gets it. This is what he said. Let's see here if I can find that quote real fast. I have it in one of my articles. He said this. He said, there's no such thing as a moral victory. We didn't win. We didn't finish the game. We didn't execute. Right? But then when he said it, he goes, I think we found out we've got a good football team. We've got a good, tough football team. We've got to learn how to finish. No excuses. We're good enough to play in that game. And I actually think part of me wonders if what he said was like, you know what? we're better than I thought we were, because we didn't play well and still had a chance to beat Ohio State in the second half. And here's the thing that gives me a little optimism, and this is what I said in that article, Vince. Notre Dame is 0-2 under Marcus Freeman. They lost to a team that finished number 7 in the country and a team that right now is ranked 2nd. They've, of 120 minutes of game action, they've led for almost 80 of those minutes, including leads in the second half of both games and having possession of the ball in the fourth quarter with an opportunity to take a lead in both games.
Correct.
They're 0-2. They didn't win them, but they were in them. In the past, they weren't in games like this. That's a step in the right direction. Now it's take another big flipping step, because I'm tired of the moral victory talk, and I was glad to hear him say, this isn't good enough.
Exactly.
And because so I came out of that part of it happy to hear.
We've heard excuses in the past.
Sure, and there was none offered last night.
None. And
I didn't love everything he said, but part of me thinks he was protecting people. But we'll see.
Yeah.
No excuses last night.
Right.
None. Explanations, but not excuses.
There's a big difference.
Right. If somebody asks you what happened on this play, you're going to explain what happened.
Right.
Hey, listen, if they would have asked about the zone fire, look, we had a call we liked, and the safeties didn't get down there quick enough, or this happened or that happened. That's an explanation to a question. That's different than an excuse. There's no excuse about, there was holdings and we didn't get them called. There was, hey, look, guys, we were playing a first-time quarterback, and hey, guys, you know what? We battled hard, and look, we're going to learn from it, and we'll be better next time. No, it's like we lost.
Right.
We lost. And he looked a little fired up, and that was like, okay, this is going to be good. It's going to be good.
Right.
So Vince, that is that. Now we're not going to have these be mailbags, but there were some super chats that I do want to bring up.
I think I starred all of them, so it should be good.
I believe you did. So if you want to just go through and make sure that you do have all those starred, I'm going to bring them up. Christopher Moore says, after last night, you think the defense can be elite. Can it be? Yeah, I think so, Vince, because here's the thing I'll say is I thought Notre Dame's defense played really well last night, and 4 of your 5 best players did not play all that well.
Right.
And some of them played not good at all. I mean,
yes.
To me, the perception is your 5 best players are Isaiah Foskey, Jason Adamiola, I'm going by levels, Maris Luafau, Cam Hart, and Brandon Joseph. Those are expected to be your 5 best players, right?
Agreed.
Foskey didn't play well. Jason didn't play well. Brandon Joseph did play well. Cam was hit or miss, but his mistakes were really costly, cost you points.
Yeah.
Right? Maris was okay, and you still played great against a team that finished first last year in scoring offense, passing offense, and yards per play. Number 1 in the country last year, and most of their guys are coming back. You were physical, you were tough. Here's what I know. Here's one thing I can promise, Vince. You ready for this? I'm going to give you a guarantee. I'm going to give you a guarantee.
Okay.
I guarantee you we will never see a game this year where Jason Adamiola and Isaiah Foskey both play like the way they did last night. They're going to be fine. They've had too many games,
and we've seen it. We've seen it.
CJ Stroud had a bad game last night for his standard. The difference was when CJ needed to make plays to win, he made game-winning plays, and the Notre Dame kids did not. That's the difference. And so I want to see more of that from those guys, and they will get there. If Jason and Isaiah and Cam play to the level that they just did last year moving forward, and the guys that stepped up last night continue what they did, this defense is going to be really flipping good, y'all. How many teams in the country can hold Ohio State to context? Lowest point total since 2018. The last team to hold Ohio State to fewer points and yards per play, the last team to do that was Alabama in the national championship game in 2020. For a little context of the last time Ohio State failed to have this many points, yards, and yards per play. So, and Alabama was the last team to hold Ohio State under 400 yards, and Notre Dame did that last night. So, yes, I think this defense can be elite. It's not there yet.
No,
they were not an elite defense last night. They were not. They were really good.
They did enough to win the game.
Finishes. Yeah. But an elite defense steps up and makes a play in the fourth quarter
on that last drive
to give them the ball back.
To give Notre Dame a chance with one possession.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what an elite defense does. They're not elite yet, but you know what? If you'd have told me before the game that Isaiah Foskey is going to make hardly any impact, Jason Adamil's going to give up hardly any impact, Cam Hart's going to make 2 boneheaded decisions, and one's going to lead to a touchdown, and Maris Wolfow's going to make 4 or 5 tackles but not do it, you'd have thought they were going to give up exactly, Vince.
45 points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Without blinking.
But Tariq Bracy balled. Brandon Joseph balled out. Riley Mills had a good game. Howard Cross had a good game. Benjamin Morrison balled out. DJ Brown was solid. Clarence Lewis balled out last night. I mean, a lot of guys that were question marks for us balled out. Now it's time for your stars to step up and play like stars. And if those 2 things come together at once, Christopher, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Bayside Tiger with a super chat. He says, Marcus Freeman won't work miracles in a week, but we need to see how good he is at having his team turn the page after an emotional game. Can have a Toledo game. Bayside Tiger 6, you nailed it.
Yep.
I'm not even going to add to it, Vince.
Yeah.
I'm not going to add anything to it. You nailed it, dude. I don't want to move on from it right away because it's such a good point, but I don't have anything to add to it.
Because he's absolutely correct.
You know how rare that is for me to not have something to add on to a point? That's well done, my friend. That's very well done. I'm pretty sure I'm the most talkative dude that most of you know. So when you can get me to say something, all I can say is, yeah, you nailed it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Michael S. says, compared to last year, how did the receivers perform getting off the line, route running, etc.? So I held off on talking about that during the upon further review because I did see Michael's super chat. And I wanted to bring up the super chat and address it. It was better, but not nearly good enough. The releases were a little inconsistent. At times they were good. At times they weren't. And they weren't on too often for me. At the top ends of routes last night, they were getting a little bit too much leaning back. And there was times where they were slipping because they were leaning back instead of driving their hips into the ground, right? That's why I say what receivers need to understand. If your son is a receiver or your young son is a receiver and he's trying to learn the game, you need to teach them the first and most important lesson to being a receiver outside of catching, because there's nothing more important than catching. But one of the things that gets you to the point where you can catch it is your brakes are not your feet, they're your hips. And as soon as you lift up, you've basically taken your brakes out. And now you're trying to use your feet to stop instead of your hips. Drive your hips into the ground. That's the brakes. Drive your hips into the ground. You want to, how can guys get 2 steps in and out of a break? Because they drive their hips down. Do that, and that's how you get out quickly. And you don't fall. I've never had a receiver unless like a muddy turf field or muddy grass field Vince fall when he drove his hips down. Never, not once. Not in practice, not in games, not once. And the reason guys were slipping last night is because they were leaning up. That's got to get better. So inconsistent is how I would say. But we saw much more competitive group last night than we've seen in the past. And even with the inconsistency, so what I just told you, Michael, is my evaluation of what a receiving corps should be, not on comparing it to last year. Compared to last year, it was light years better.
Oh, yeah.
Light years better. But it still wasn't nearly good enough. But I didn't expect them to look like Reggie Wayne and Santana Moss, Miami receivers who were phenomenal route runners in their first game. But we need to see steady progress. That's going to be the way that I evaluate it moving forward. The Spanky 412. How many sound effects did Vince make while driving home today? The over-under was 35.5. I was heavy on the over. It was close. Vince was fired up last night. And but not the under is the pick because there were a couple times where he was just kind of chill. I think he embraced it and settled it. But slightly on under. Slightly under. You would have lost a little bit of money. A little bit of money.
And it was great meeting you last night, Spanky. I will say that. That was a lot of fun.
He got to see Vince in rare form last night.
Yes, that is true. That is a very good point. He's looking to run into people.
Yep. Great. Yeah. So Vince and I can tell you this. Can I tell people?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. So first of all, Vince is the fastest walker ever. So I say to Vince, we're walking out of the stadium. I'm trying to publish a story on my phone because we had to leave. We wanted to hustle back and get home so we could get to the hotel so we could do the podcast. So I said, Vince, I need you to stay right in front of me because we're walking out amidst 105,000 people. I need you to stay in front of me because I'm looking down at my phone to publish this. And I look up and Vince is 20 feet ahead of me. I'm jogging and Vince is pulling away. He is the fastest walker ever when he's pissed off. And you know how when you're in a crowd, you're gotta bob and weave and I'm tipping under. And I'm using my swim moves to get around people. And Vince is like peacocked out.
Big
You know what I
chested,
mean?
man.
Like hoping somebody bumps into him and looks at him funny. I was like, Vince, man, you can chill out, man. Right? Like it's me and you against about 105,000 people. I can take 4 or 5 of them, but you know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna still be outnumbered, buddy. No,
I
but
was looking for a fight.
Vince was looking for contact last night. He was
I
looking to
was.
open holes. I'm like dipping in front of these two girls, like getting inside and getting skinny, like as skinny as I can be, and getting through holes. And Vince is just like, I'm making holes.
They bump into me,
man. This dude was a little fired up last night.
Not happy.
Vince was fired up last night. Gregory Gilbert with a super chat. Thank you, my friend, very much. Carroll didn't look good. Carell didn't look good at all. Should JP take center back over and find another left guard? Not yet. Not yet, in my opinion.
Right.
But
it's something you can address if things don't progress. I mean, bottom line.
The only way I would do it, Vince, for me, because again, Zeke won that job based on spring, summer, fall.
Right.
The only exception would be, Vince, for me, is if for some reason he doesn't handle the film session well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever get in a film session, you got, coach, I didn't do, or it's not my fault. Or, okay, man, you know what? You're not accountable. I got to find somebody who's accountable.
Right.
Because if you're accountable, we can correct the mistakes. We'll figure it out. We'll get back out there. We'll correct the mistakes. We'll be good to go. When a guy's not accountable, you're not going to fix it. So as long as Zeke comes in there and is accountable, and I have never heard a single thing about Zeke Carell that would make me think he won't be accountable.
Yeah.
I think he will be accountable.
I agree.
That's the only example. Now, am I gonna wait until the week before Clemson and he plays the same way he did last night every single week? No, probably not. I'm gonna probably make a change before then.
Sure.
But I'm not. That's a big change, and I'm not. And Jared Patterson's not. He's got to prove he can be healthy first. You make this move and take Zeke away from center, and then Jared's not 100%, and all of a sudden you got to go back to Zeke. Now you've shot his confidence. It's not as easy as it like for us sitting here and for y'all sitting there. It's easy for us to say, bench that dude, fire that guy. It's not as easy when you're actually in there because there's a lot more consequences to that than just benching a guy. Especially when the guy you want to take over center is currently injured and couldn't play yesterday. Because if Jared Patterson was at all capable of playing yesterday,
he would have played. Yes.
So, Zeke's going to have it. And honestly, I wouldn't play him against Marshall. I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't play him against Cal either. I would get healthy.
If he's fully healthy, I would play him against Cal.
Fully. He 100%.
He's got to be at least 90% to 95% for me to play him against Cal.
I do want him.
Then you got a bye week.
And I want him against North Carolina. Like that's where you need to start. Right. I mean, even though after yesterday, I'm really not worried about North Carolina.
Well, I am because you got to score more than 10 points to beat them. Man, I mean, look, they can score, right?
It's just Ohio State.
I understand that. But you lost to Ohio State by 11.
I understand that too.
So
I get. So
my point is, you can't expect your defense to go out there and hold teams to 9 points every game.
I'm just saying
I'm worried because the offense has to get better. It's not a game Notre Dame should be in trouble. Is
correct.
The point. App State hung 61 on them, but I am worried about it. The offense has to play better. 8 of our friends could
score on North Carolina.
At least 17. I didn't think it'd get worse than what it was with Jay Bateman, but it got worse so far.
Yes.
It's not good. Demetrius Rex, what did you like from Buckner yesterday? Any particular play flash for you? Yeah, there were several. I mean, I thought that, number one, he played hard. I explained one last night, the check he made on that 3rd and 2, where he threw the wide fade to Salerno. Now, I want to see him lead him a little bit more on that, but he still gave him a chance. I like the play action pass. If you go back and watch that play, he was a little off on that target, but Bauman was also drifting inside. And he shouldn't have been drifting inside, Vince, because there was a linebacker coming over from the other side. He needed to stay right up that seam. Tyler threw it right up the seam. So it was going to still be off target, but it would have been a much easier catch and run if Bauman would have stayed up the seam on that particular throw. That was a good play. I thought when they actually did things to get him out on the perimeter. So like some of the read zone stuff they did, Vince, was with like down near the goal line where Ohio State had more guys in position to go kind of defend him. But a couple times when they got him room to run out in space, he looked good. I mean, he did some good things. So I thought some of the reads he made were good. He had some flashes, right? So some of the downfield balls. And the thing, too, is he kept getting up. And that flashed to me. He was getting hit hard by some big dudes last night.
Yep.
And he kept getting up. He battled.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did.
You know,
He got hit.
and the other thing too
hard.
that he showed me last night is at no point in time, like, did Tyler need to make better reads? Yes. Does he need to execute some throws better? Yes. At no point in time last night, watching it live, watching it on TV, and then watching the all 22, did I feel like the moment was too big for him.
Absolutely agree.
He needs to execute better, but I never felt like, okay, the moment's too big for him.
Right.
He's not ready for this moment.
Absolutely agree with that.
That's something
that was a genuine question that we had going in, because this is a massive place to play in your first start, and he overcame that part of it. Like, that part did not affect him.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We got some more. Let manager 1. I'd hate for Brian to review my Madden film. That'd be nice. At least to your face. Be nice. Appreciate the super chat, my friend, very, very much. Emerald City Irish, lots of could have, should have issues, but I felt the team genuinely fought back and forth against the top 3 team all night under BK. I'm just waiting for the team to fold. Big picture, I'm excited. I think this is a great point, Vince, because I've had 2 comments made to me. And they collapsed in the fourth quarter. And then the same thing, but I can't believe that Notre Dame blew a 28-7 lead against Oklahoma State. Brian Kelly never would have done that. You know my answer is, you're absolutely right. Brian Kelly never would have blown a 28-7 lead in the Fiesta.
He wouldn't have had why?
Never would have had a 28-7 lead in the Fiesta.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the point is, they're further along, but they're not there yet.
Right.
They're not there yet. And I think what you said last night is, like, Vince, I said to you, you asked me, do you feel better about Ohio State or worse about Ohio State? I actually feel better about where Ohio State is. If I'm an Ohio State fan, I think the couple that I've talked to, I don't think they have an appreciation for how well their team played last night, because they didn't respect Notre Dame coming in. But for me, your offense was off last night because of how well Notre Dame played, but your kids still stepped up in the second half and made the plays they needed to win. That's big time. And you did that against a defense that's very talented. It's the most talented defense you're going to face all season. And in my opinion, one of the 5 or 6 most talented defenses in all of college football, in my opinion, top to bottom. And you battled them. You didn't have your A game, and you still battled and did what you needed to do when it mattered most, right? That's something And then the defensive line for Ohio State was physical. Like, Ohio State was such a more physical team last night than they were at any point in time in the last 2 years.
Oh, absolutely.
By far.
Absolutely.
And to get that in game 1 was impressive. It was impressive. And Notre Dame went and fought that team. Now, Ohio State was better yesterday, flat out better than Notre Dame was yesterday, because they made those plays. But they were not to me, it was never a situation where, like, man, they're just too talented. They're just too talented. Notre Dame can't compete with their talent. I never thought that. I thought that at times maybe Notre Dame's coaches didn't believe in their talent enough. But you know what? Throw Braden those deep balls. Throw Lorenzo those deep balls. And if they're not good enough, then find someone else.
Right.
But give them a shot. Give them a shot. Those are the guys you recruited. Those are your guys. And they're not going to have confidence in themselves if they don't think you have confidence in them. And that's something that is a very important thing. And Vince, we didn't say this. We need to say this. Tommy Rees and Harry Heastan and Chancey Stuckey and Dylan McCullough and Jared Parker, the biggest thing that they need to show over this next week is be hard on them, be demanding of them, be hard on yourself first. Number 1.
Yes.
Own this game. Whether you truly believe or not, own this game. Hey, guys, this is on me. I didn't put y'all in position to be successful. I would hope that they would mean it, because it's true. I would hope that they would mean it. But if you don't, it is what it is. But the thing for me, Vince, is then go out there and show them the rest of the week that I have faith in you. You know what, Lorenzo? It's my fault that we didn't get you more deep shots. Or maybe Coach Easton says, hey, you know what? It's our fault. We didn't give you enough time, Tyler or Lorenzo, right? And then, hey, Tommy, hey, you know what? That's on me. I should have done more to get Braden the ball. Chris Tyree, it's on me. And do that, because you need to make sure these kids know they believe in you. Because if I'm one of those players, if I'm Tobias Merriweather right now, I'm thinking they don't believe in me. They have no faith in me right now. After all the hype and talk about me in fall camp, and I went out there and made plays and I did well and all this kind of stuff, they didn't put me in the game. They don't believe in me. You need to fix that now.
Yeah.
Like now. Same thing with all those kids. That's going to be a very important part of it. Thomas K with a super chat. Thomas, thank you very, very, very much. I appreciate you very much for that super chat. Bayside Tiger 6. Vince, can you go find Thomas K's super chat and see if maybe he had a question underneath it, just in case We didn't miss that because sometimes that does happen. Bayside Tiger 6 said, you win big games when a guy like Matt S. makes a circus catch. You lose big games when you count on him to do it twice. Bayside Tiger 6,
I'll tell
he
you
had
what.
a comment about some other stuff that I didn't really care much for because some of it's not true and some of it's just speculation that I don't necessarily appreciate. Some of it may be true, but I know for a fact for some of those guys it's not true. But his other 2 super chats were on point.
The 2 super chats were on point.
Yeah.
He put money behind the good stuff.
Absolutely on point. Absolutely on point. Tyler, I'm gonna go binge because he said something mean to me once. So I'm just kidding. It's didn't he say it's bingy, right? I think is what he said. I forget,
Sure.
man. I'm sorry, Tyler. Is this the floor? If this is the floor, I'm really excited. If this is the ceiling for some groups, then it's concerning. I don't think there's a single group last night in the opener that this is the ceiling. Because otherwise, are you going to say that this is the ceiling for CJ Stroud?
Right.
No, you've seen him do it before. Well, I've seen Isaiah Foskey do it before. So why would I think he's never going to do it again? I've seen Jason Adamiello do it before a lot. I've seen Ken Hart do it before. I've seen Lorenzo Styles do it before. I've seen Braden Lindsey do it before. Oh, they don't have the players. I'm sorry. You had 2 guys on the field last night, Vince, that had 100 yards receiving against a very similar defense last year. You know, that some of that stuff is on you. You know what I didn't see on the film review? I saw stuff with no crossers, no drags, not enough levels. That stuff is still there from last night.
Yep.
And then Mike Bartos, Ohio State fan here, and Notre Dame has an elite D. They had a great D in 2018, but the offense has always been subpar. Defense can only do so much. Mike, absolutely right. And this has been kind of our beef for a long time. Notre Dame has had several defenses, in my opinion, Vince, that were good enough to win a championship. And the offense has always been the thing that kind of held them back. And so until that changes, this is going to be an issue. Josh Phillips said this is in there from a super chat. Thank you, Josh. Offense needs a leader. Losing Avery Davis hurt. I'm going to say this. Losing Avery Davis and Jarrett Patterson in this game hurt your leadership in the opener. That is the one thing I absolutely agree on. You had your 2 leaders on offense who weren't on the field last night against a team like Ohio State. You can't afford that. Now it's time to get them back.
Agreed.
Right. And to figure out a way to be binge like binge drinking. Okay. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate that. I'm going to remember that now. See, that right there is going to help me remember it now, I think.
A mnemonic device. I like it.
Yes. I appreciate that very, very much. So anyway, Vince, that's going to do it for the show today. Jake Maggs with the super chat. LSU sucks. I'm all about that. Actually,
our boy Jay Bramlett just shanked the.
No way.
Badly.
No way. I'm shocked.
Badly. Yeah.
I am shocked.
Well,
shocked. Anyway, everybody, thank you all for being with us tonight. Great attendance last night. Great, and I kind of call that Vince attendance. Great attendance tonight. I appreciate y'all very, very, very much. Tomorrow we're going to be back to Vince, Sean, and Ryan at 1:00. Are going to talk about recruiting, how all the Notre Dame recruits did this weekend. Jaden Greathouse was balling on Friday night. They'll talk about all the recruiting. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., Vince will be on the show. Vince, am I going to be on with you, or is Jesse going to be on with you tomorrow?
Jesse. I got Jesse.
Jesse? Okay.
So I needed a Stiers, and I went and got one.
Okay. So we got one. We got one. So he'll be on there at 6 o'clock tomorrow night with the IB Nation Sports Talk. Potatoes of Brine was tough watching the second half, especially surrounded by OSU fans.
Yeah, that's
Wish
fair.
they kept running downhill and not be cute. Morrison is a dude. I appreciate you for the super chat, Potatoes, and I agree with you very much. So we'll be back on Tuesday. It is Marshall time. Ohio State's in the rear view. It's time to start looking forward on Marshall. That's how we're going to be. And so we're not going to spend all of our mailbags every day this week talking a billion questions about Marshall, right? Or maybe about Ohio State. We're going to talk about Marshall, talk about this team, talk about where they got to get better and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to continue to move forward and see what this team can do. Because there was I forget who it was. Somebody in the chat earlier said, Vince, that we're going to learn a lot about this team by how they respond. And was it Bayside Tiger? I think I forget who said it, but I think that when you see that, Vince, how they respond, that's going to tell us a lot about this team.
No doubt.
But if the execution still needs a little bit of work, it needs a little bit of work. I'm talking about mentally, emotionally. Do they come out with a little pea and vinegar next week? That's what I want to see. Don't give me this. Oh, it's Marshall. I'm not excited about Marshall. No. you got something to prove. I don't care who's on the other side of the field because this isn't about
doesn't
Marshall
matter.
anymore. It's about you.
No,
it's about Notre Dame.
It's about Notre Dame.
And
Absolutely
you didn't live up to
accurate.
the golden standard last week, and now you need to go out and make up for it. So
Yep.
I hope that that's what we see from them this next week. So anyway, we'll have shows all week this week, everybody. So make sure you're staying locked in with us. Make sure you're signed up on the message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. Give us a 5-star review. Hey, we've been putting stuff out the last couple weeks on the CFB Nation channel. So make sure you're subscribed to the CFB Nation channel. I thought the Bills had some great content this past week. John Garcia put some recruiting stuff up this past weekend. So we put some of our stuff up this past weekend. That'll be on there too. So definitely make sure that you are checking out the CFB Nation podcast. You can find it on Apple and Spotify for sure. If you don't know where it is, let me know. I can get it all to you all. Also, you can find it on YouTube. So CFB Nation, definitely make sure you're subscribed to that to make sure you're getting caught up on all the other national stuff too. So you definitely want to check that out. So for Vince, I'm Brian. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. And we'll talk to you very soon. Go Noles. Excuse me. So have a great night, everybody. Talk to you soon on Irish Breakdown Podcast.